So this is an anterior lower leg. It's a left leg. You can see the calcaneus here, the tibia and the fibula laterally. And what's being shown are all the anterior compartment muscles. These are the ones that move the dorsal foot and the ankle into dorsiflexion, which is this action, and also extension of the toes. So the anterior compartment are all supplied by the one nerve, and it's our common peroneal nerve. So that makes it nice and easy to remember. So you're seeing here in blue things called retinaculum. There's two of them. There's a superior retinaculum and an inferior, and they're designed to help act like pulleys and strap the tendons in against the bone. So the superior retinaculum runs from medial malleolus to lateral malleolus, and the inferior one goes from the calcaneus, and it has this sort of superior band which wraps back up to the medial malleolus, and this more inferior one which wraps over and it blends in with the medial fascia of the foot. So they're really important. They're susceptible to damage as much as any ligament, and that can lead to instability of the tendons. So when we look at tendons of the anterior ankle, you've got to think of which movements the ankle can produce and what you're going to need to produce those movements. So you always need one tendon that acts purely on the ankle joint and is not going all the way to the ends of the toes. So that's this dorsiflexor over here. It's the largest tendon of the anterior group. You can see it's coming from that sharp sort of anterior border, and it sits lateral. And this is the region where we can get shin splints, which is a painful condition of the periosteum. So this muscle here, it's closely opposed to the tibia. It's anterior to the tibia, and we simply call it the tibialis anterior. So it's nice and easy to remember. Its proximal attachment is onto this lateral upper surface, the upper half of the tibia, and its distal attachment is onto the first metatarsal base and the medial cuneiform. So you can see how when it contracts, it will produce dorsiflexion of the foot, and it also helps to suspend the medial arch of the foot. So that's the first one to learn in our anterior compartment. We'll now remove it. What you can see here, this large red muscle here, which is having its origin on the medial surface of the fibula and across the interosseous membrane. You can see distally it divides into 4 tendon slips, 1, 2, 3, 4, to the lateral 4 digits. So what would you call that? Well, obviously it produces extension, so we'd call it extensor, digitorum, because that's what it extends. And we do need to call it longus, because what you're seeing here in pink is like a duplicate version of the extensor digitorum longus. And I'll talk about that in a minute, but it's called the brevis. So the longus is a muscle that starts in the anterior lower compartment of the shin and crosses the ankle joint and inserts into digits 2, 3, 4, and 5 and produces extension of the joints of the toe. It does something a little tricky at the MTP level, but I won't discuss that now. So what else is left? Well, the great toe is special, so it has its own extensor, and the word for the first metatarsal is hallucis. So instead of inserting on the upper fibula, this one has its origin in the middle to sort of lower region of the fibula, and it's inserting on the anterior surface. So again, some of the fibers of the muscle would attach to the interosseous membrane, and you can see distally it's going all the way to the distal phalanx, to the base of the distal phalanx. So this one is our extensor hallucis longus. So that leaves one to go, and it's a muscle that not everybody has, and this is called the peroneus tertius. So it's inserting on the base of the 5th metatarsal dorsally, and it has its origin on the anterior surface of the fibula, but quite distally. So we could say the inferior third of the fibula and interosseous membrane. So the peroneus tertius is part of the anterior group. It's not part of the lateral group, which you may remember the peroneus longus and brevis are the lateral group tendons, with the brevis inserting also onto the fifth metatarsal. But the tertius inserts more anteriorly than the brevis, so the brevis inserts more laterally. So that's the anterior group. What is now revealed is an intrinsic foot muscle. So intrinsic foot muscles start and finish within the foot and they don't cross the ankle joint. So this is the anterior process of the calcaneus. And while it looks like one muscle, it's actually two. So this lateral portion of it, fleshy muscle here, divides into 4 tendon slips, and this is the extensor for the lateral 4 toes, and we call it extensor digitorum brevis. So brevis meaning short. So this one here is going to the great toe at the MTP level, and this one is called the extensor hallucis brevis. So it has its origin off the extensor digitorum brevis. So they sort of blend in up here, but obviously go to different places and functionally perform different functions, different movements. So we'll do that in reverse just to recap. We'll have a look at our anterior compartment muscles again. So instead of the extensor digitorum brevis, we need an extensor digitorum longus. So that comes from the fibula and the interosseous membrane and inserts into our 4 digits. 1, 2, 3, 4, not the great toe. Oh, he's been jammed. Delicate process. All right, there's your extensor digitorum longus. Okay, what's next? Let's put this little guy on. Peroneus tertius, from the anterior surface of the fibula to the 5th metatarsal. Then we need something for the great toe. So that's our extensor hallucis longus. And it doesn't pass over the top like that, it passes underneath, so we better do it properly. And then finally, we need the tibialis anterior. This is its origin up here. Where does it insert? It inserts on the 1st metatarsal and the medial cuneiform. So here it is here, inserting there. And finally, to keep all these things in place, you need 2 retinaculums. So we have a superior retinaculum and an inferior retinaculum. And that's a wrap for the anterior compartment of the lower leg. Bye.